Welcome to my YouTube channel. Get ready to dive into the captivating world of Look Who's Back as we break down the plot, characters, and key moments of this film. The movie begins somewhere during the Second World War in Berlin. Hitler discusses with a person named Keppel and expresses his disagreement with the gesture of people's greetings and complaints about the outdated salute of the Nazis. After a moment, he wakes up somewhere in the forest, looking up at the sky, and sees that enemy aircraft are missing. Suddenly, a ball comes bouncing towards him. He stands up and heads towards the building. Then he's approached by three kids. Hitler asks them for directions to the street. In that instance, a reporter named Fabian Sawatsky is filming the scene, and Hitler is seen on the far side of the screen. Hitler gets to the street and is amazed to see people riding monowheel bikes. He notices people capturing him on their cameras. He realizes that he is not aware of his situation and alerts himself to collect more information. He asks a man about the location of the chancellery, but instead, the person asks him for a picture. He gets disturbed by the camera flashes as people come near him. As Hitler walks away, he finds a woman speaking in German on her phone. He approaches her and asks about the current date, but the woman is terrified and sprays his eyes. Hitler cries in pain, stumbles, and walks to the newspaper shop. He is shocked to see the date is October 3, 2014, and falls to the ground. Some time later, Hitler wakes up at the newspaper shop and asks the owner about the date. He confirms that it is, in fact, 2014. A confused Hitler questions if the shopkeeper has kidnapped him and suspects if all this is a trick played by the enemy's secret service. He threatens to kill the shopkeeper, but instead, the shopkeeper gives him a chocolate bar. Hitler sniffs it and declares it as industrially pressed grain and questions the shopkeeper if there is still a shortage of bread. Hitler is astonished at the presence of Turkish people in Berlin. He then starts collecting information from the newspaper. While reading, he assumes that he didn't win the war in the past and Germany was handed over to the hands of a clumsy woman. He concludes that the war was a total waste. Meanwhile, Fabian, who was recently fired from his job, watches his video report about soccer and sobs. His mother calms him down and asks him to pause the video, and that's when she notices Hitler in the background. Fabian is amused at the discovery of a person who looks like Hitler. Back in the shop, the shopkeeper asks Hitler to keep the newspaper aside and stand outside. Hitler grudges at being asked to work. The shopkeeper asks him to clean up his clothes as they are stinking. Hitler then goes to a laundry shop and asks them to clean his uniform. Next, we see Hitler walking to the news cellar with jeans and a sweater on. Fabian, on the other hand, has somehow managed to find him. After getting a look at Hitler, he is amazed at his appearance. Hitler agrees to Fabian's idea to film him. Fabian takes some cash and a car from his mother and starts a journey with Hitler. They both end up in a hotel and are amused at seeing the television. Hitler then decides to talk about politics in Fabian's presentation. He goes to places and asks people about their views on politics. After the interviews, he finds that there was minimal impact of democracy on people during his absence. He notices discontent and suppressed anger in people, which reminds him of the 1930s. People tell Hitler about the problem of immigrants in the country, reinforcing Hitler's idea that mixing races doesn't work. Fabian asks Hitler about his mustache, and they end up on a farm where Hitler gets bitten by a dog. He becomes enraged and shoots at the animal. Fabian scolds him and seizes the gun. As the tour goes on, Fabian eventually runs out of cash. But he thinks of a plan and convinces passers-by to have their sketches drawn by Hitler. Hitler draws sarcastic pictures that people find funny and pay for. They continue their trip after collecting enough money. Back in town, Fabian shows a clip of Hitler to Christoph. The video has a lot of views as Fabian had uploaded it on the internet. Christoph is impressed by the large number of views. He asks Fabian for Hitler's name and contact number. After meeting him, Christoph suspects Hitler to be a lunatic and asks Fabian to take him away from the office. After leaving, Hitler enters the director's office and asks her to save Germany together with him. Interested in the idea, Bellini asks him about the plan. She quickly asks her assistant to prepare a proper TV format for broadcasting the Führer upon hearing Hitler's idea. Fabian then threatens Christoph to give him his job back, or else he will take Hitler away. Christoph makes him a kitchen boy, promising to promote him when a new editorial post opens up. Sometime later, Hitler is given a table in the TV studio. Christoph calls for Kromier to help Hitler with computer use. Hitler recalls the computers of his days and labels the invention as one of the greatest. Kromier tries to sign up Hitler for email but informs him that his name is already taken. Hitler grumbles about others stealing his name and tells her to use New Reich's chancellery as he likes it. Christoph plans to put Hitler on a live comedy show called Whoa Dude. He intends to bring racism into the debate through sarcastic jokes about Jews and then throw out Hitler. The show starts, and Witzigmann, the host, calls Hitler onto the stage. The audience gossips about Hitler's appearance, but when Hitler gazes at the audience, the hall becomes completely silent. Hitler soon breaks the silence but doesn't read out the lines as scripted. He explains that he is going to tell a joke about immigrants, but he is not going to do so. He says that TV is a great invention of humans, but the shows broadcasted are nonsense. He sheds light on problems like poverty and unemployment and predicts that the people of the country are heading towards the abyss without noticing it. Hitler vows to fight against TV, not only up to the broadcast of the abyss but also until he succeeds in overcoming it. Everyone likes the idea and claps for him. Seeing Hitler's popularity, Witzigmann becomes envious. Bellini asks Christoph to broadcast Hitler in every show. Christoph is distressed by the failure of his plan. In the following scene, we see Hitler give interviews to numerous TV shows and share his motive to make Germany great again. His popularity grows immensely, and he meets several people and party leaders. He starts charming them all by sharing his ideas. One day, Hitler and Fabian visit NPD headquarters in Berlin. He calls for Ulf Birna, the federal chairman of NPD, and asks him about his cause. Hitler belittles him and says that they have wasted enough time, and the movement has taken a step back by decades due to their words. Kromier hands over a letter to Christoph stating the payment for the dog that Hitler had shot earlier. Christoph receives the letter happily, believing it might be a way to cause trouble. Hitler is put on a TV program where he is asked direct questions about his different roles in the war. Hitler responds that he wants to reach out to people, but the interviewer tells him that all his deeds cannot be justified. He shows him the clip of him shooting the dog. The video disturbs the audience. Hitler is angered and threatens him that he would do the same to him and turns their studio into a parking lot for tanks. Christoph becomes happier seeing people's negative responses. After the disastrous interview, Bellini is fired and Christoph is appointed as the new manager. After that, Hitler goes to Fabian's house and starts living with him. He expresses amusement at the path taken by destiny and starts to write his second book. The book soon hits the market. 3 months later, at the TV studio, everyone is sitting in a meeting where the massive losses that the company has suffered are discussed. Christoph believes that Witzigmann's show will put them back on track, but one employee informs them that he has quit his job. Christoph becomes tense and gets mad at the selected employees for losing the show. One of the staff suggests getting Hitler back, which interests Christoph. Christoph looks for Hitler again and offers Fabian that he will invest $1 million in the film that Fabian and Hitler are shooting if they, in return, let them broadcast the movie on their TV. Hitler and Fabian go to Kromier's house, where Kromier's grandmother identifies Hitler. She claims that Hitler gassed all the people up and killed them. She calls him a criminal and shouts at him to get out. Back on set, Fabian gets Hitler to replay how he got to the place. He asks Hitler what happened before the ball came rolling to him in the woods. But Hitler cannot remember it. Later at night, he walks out to the set and is surrounded by some thugs. They call him the reason to take Germany back and give him a hard blow on his face. As Hitler opens his eyes, he finds himself in a hospital in front of Bellini. At the same time, he looks over the footage of the video he captured of the boys in soccer. He looks closely and finds Hitler's rose from where he was lying. Fabian is amazed at what happened before it. He quickly goes to the place and finds a board at the location. Fabian rushes to the hospital, but he doesn't find Hitler. Bellini says that he is headed to the shooting set. Fabian reveals that he is the real Adolf Hitler, but Bellini doesn't believe him. Fabian acts mad and tries to explain his theory hysterically. The guards try to catch him, but he flees. Fabian then reaches the set and aims a gun at Hitler. When asked about his identity, Hitler explains that he never claimed to be anyone else. Fabian says that Hitler is fooling people with his propaganda, to which Hitler replies that people elected a leader who openly shared his whole idea in 1993. Fabian takes Hitler to the top of the building with his gun. He corners Hitler and declares him to be a monster. Hitler, in turn, claps back, saying that ordinary people elected an extraordinary man and entrusted the fate of the country to him. He explains that people chose him because they bear the same values in their hearts. Enraged, Fabian shoots Hitler, causing him to fall down the building onto the streets. Soon, Fabian hears Hitler's voice saying that no German can get rid of him. And Hitler, who was just thrown down, appears right behind again. Just then, Bellini calls for a cut in the studio, and everyone cheers for the shoot. Turns out, it was just a film, and Hitler is alive. In the final scene, Hitler finishes his speech in the studio, declaring his determination to take Germany back and unite it under a single flag. The audience erupts into applause, and the movie ends on a powerful note. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing and liking this video as it will allow us to bring you more content.